Mykhailo is a resident of the small village of Novovorontssovka, Kherson region. Before the war, he worked in the House of Culture. He taught children and adults to play musical instruments. He wrote music himself. When the full-scale invasion began, he did not want to leave. In August, the Russians fired 2 missiles on Mykhailo's house. The man, together with his sons and wife, were at home.
Я почув брата, що він кричить.
I heard my brother screaming. I said I was going to try to get out from under the rubble. Even then I heard my mother. She was still alive. And my father. My brother was under the closet. He got him down, but he also covered him from the shrapnel. I found him and pulled him out, and we ran to get my parents.
The youngest son, Andriy, managed to pull his father and older brother out from under the rubble. Mother couldn't be saved.
Ну, а це саме хата.
This is the house, or rather what is left of it.
Просто повезло те, що ми як відкинули стіну.
It was just lucky that when we threw back one wall, my father stretched out his head and we found him that way. We simply approached our mother from the wrong side. If we had entered from the other side, we would have immediately pulled her out.
The guys had minor injuries, but the father fought for his life in the Kryvyi Rih intensive care unit for 3 weeks. Then he was evacuated to the UNBROKEN National Rehabilitation Center in Lviv. Mykhailo learned about the death of his wife after he came to his senses.
Мені ще деколи здається, що так двері відкриються.
Sometimes it still seems to me that the door will open and I will hear her voice. She will come in. I have one thought, that they are waiting for me there, at home, my children, and I really want to go to them, even though it is shooting there, and it is worse there than here.
Mykhailo underwent 3 dozen operations. Doctors were able to stabilize his condition. However, the biggest problem remained, a wound on the head. Mykhailo was literally scalped by the explosion. And this wound had to be urgently closed, otherwise at any moment the brain could be struck by a deadly infection.
Now the patient has a massive wound on his head and the entire skull is completely exposed. That is, the bones are completely exposed and therefore they need to close this defect, since severe infectious complications can occur.
Canadians volunteered to help the Lviv doctors in transplanting tissues from the back to the head, but they were not ready to come to Ukraine, so it was decided to operate the man in Poland.
I already think that everything will be fine, that everything will work out for the doctors, but I don't worry about moving. The main thing is that the operation is successful.
Mykhailo, together with the doctors, traveled 400 kilometers to the clinic in the Polish town of Czeladź. The operation lasted 12 hours. The Ukrainian and Canadian team worked as one mechanism. Surgeons separated a flap of the broadest muscle of the back, transplanting it to the bare skull. Vessels the size of a human hair were stitched together under a microscope.
We already performed this type of operation in Lviv, but there is a peculiarity of the injury here. It is very complex, so we performed this operation with our Canadian colleagues, and in the near future we plan to perform such operations in Ukraine. But special support is needed, namely equipment that allows microvenous anastomosis to be applied. This is very important because it significantly reduces the time of surgical intervention.
Operation was successfully completed. A week later, Mykhailo returned to the UNBROKEN Center for Rehabilitation. Ahead, the man is still waiting for several cosmetic surgeries on his face, and then he will be able to return to his children in the Kherson region. Reported by Serhiy Kulias, Yulia Bil, UATV News.